Lethal Company, the game that took the world by storm whenever it released in October of 2023. And if you haven't heard about it, welcome to the internet. Don't look up adult erotic content. People keep getting addicted to that stuff. Back to Lethal Company. The basic gameplay loop is that you go to a moon, you get scrap, you sell it to a monster behind a wall, and then you get profit. You get a profit quota and you're given 3 days to meet that amount. So why not just throw that concept out the window and try to beat the first 5 quotas within the game with 1 day apiece? What could go wrong? The answer is a lot. How many times do you think it took me to do this? 5, 10, maybe 20? Try 52. Like a fish flopping down a dirt road, most of these ended in tragedy. And if it looks like I'm dying in the footage on screen, it's because I am. This challenge took 30 total hours over the course of 2 weeks. I'm not letting all that footage go to waste. Before I show you some data, I'm going to explain the rules that I set for myself for this challenge. And yes, I am still dying in the background. The main rules is that I only have 1 day to meet the profit quota, and I can burn a couple days so that I can sell at the company for 100% of scrap value, rather than the 50% or whatever it'd be otherwise. My final rule is no dying, because I wouldn't be able to go back down for another day of collection. Alright, now for the numbers. As you'll see on screen, there are 2 pie charts. One is the quota that I died on, and the other is my cause of death. Don't ask me why I died so many times on quota 3, I cannot answer that. Something about reaching quota 3 was like getting hit in the back of the head with an aluminum baseball bat. The fact that only 18% of attempts made it past quota 3 is astounding to me. And as for the cause of death, most of the time my death was caused to either giving up or just running out of time. Both of which were caused from not being able to find enough scrap fast enough and get back to the ship, and either dying at midnight or dying because I jumped into a pit and said, oh well. Surprisingly, I died to dogs and giants the most out of the run, both of which having 3 deaths apiece. Also, in my 52 attempts, I got not 1 but 2 meteor showers, and only 1 of them managed to kill me. Take that, astrologers, you can't kill me with your silly rocks. Alright, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Let's get to the actual run. When I first started this, I had this long drawn out plan of the moons I was going to go to, the scrap amounts I was going to get, the whole shebang. 44 attempts in, I decided to just go to ass. Or in other words, assurance, because assurance knows how to treat me. Let me explain. Assurance is the GOAT moon of Lethal Company, at least in terms of the free ones. It has an indoor power level of just 6 and an outdoor power level of 8, with power levels being how many monsters can realistically spawn. More or less a monster cap, so to speak. And yes, the outdoor power level of 8 is a little high for a basic moon like Assurance, but giants only have a 0.52% chance of spawning. What that means is the most you'll have to deal with is 2 blind dogs and a worm. Where this gets even better is Assurance's layout. There's a bunch of small nooks and crannies around the place where dogs and worms will eventually sneak into and stay for a bit, making this easy moon that much easier. The average profit for Assurance is around 575, which isn't good considering 32% of all scrap is two-handed and really annoying to get back to the ship. However, with Assurance having a 1x sized moon, it's not terribly difficult to either full clear or mostly full clear. You got all that? Okay, let's go to the monsters. As I said previously, Assurance has an indoor power level of 6. Power levels vary from monster to monster, but here's a quick rundown of what you'll typically find on Assurance. Bunker Spider, level 2, Bracken, level 3, Snare Flea, level 1, Thumper, level 3, and Spoil Lizard, level 1. With these kinds of levels, that cap fills up really fast, meaning as long as I'm in and out decently quickly, I'm only going to interact with a couple monsters on average per run. Also, even though I just went over all of that info, here is a clip of me being an absolute idiot. Gotta do a scan. 15 objects. How many objects was it? I've already forgotten. I just said it. I think it was 14. Apart from that dumb part, quota 1 went well. Pretty basic day where I met quota with $149 left over. Quota 2 did not, in fact, go well. I did buy a pro flashlight so that I could see better, so that did make it bearable. I didn't realize it at the time, but the main and fire exits were right next to one another. Why this is bad is because after getting a couple items from fire, I went to main, and main didn't have anywhere to go apart from fire. Not only that, but there was a turret and spike trap in between me at main and fire exit. So guess what I did next? A, call it a lost cause and left. B, went to fire and found where to go. Or C, ran around like a chicken without a head, panicking on where to go. If you chose C, you should subscribe. That being said, I was able to find more scrap and make it back out, but not before blinding myself and running from a baby behind me. Then, once I was outside, it was dark with baboon hawks, a dog, and a worm, and I was still being blinded by poop paper. The cherry on top is that I had to leave my flashlight behind as well. Ended the day off with quota and $209 left over total. Now, onto quota 3. With a new flashlight in hand, I was ready for anything. Never mind, I ended up getting lost. After that little kerfuffle, not much happened during this quota. The most interesting thing that happened was that I didn't interact with any monster indoors or out. Not only that, I made out like a bandit and not only got quota, but got an extra $100 to add to my backstock. It was a pretty damn good day. For quota 4, even though I didn't need to, I decided to kick it up a notch. Instead of continuing on assurance, I instead decided to go to Rend. Rend is the cheapest of the viewable paid moons, and in return is quite a bit harder. While its outdoor power is lower at a 6, its indoor power is higher at a 10. Not only is the indoor power higher, but more lethal monsters will spawn. See what I did there? Anyways, here I'll have to worry about stuff like the Ghost Girl, the Nutcracker, and the Mask. Despite being more deadly than previously mentioned monsters, both the Nutcracker and the Mask are power level 1s. So not only do I have to deal with them, but it's possible I will have to deal with multiple of them. That being said, while Rend is costly at $550 to go to, its average profit is $12.47. This makes it over twice as good as Assurance. And at this point in the run, I do have the money to just splurge $550 to go to Rend. Also, I'm sure you have noticed, but Rend is a blizzard map, meaning it's very hard to see. Outdoor enemies are not affected by this blizzard, only the player. Once getting inside, I did get lucky with some pretty valuable scrap right off the bat, like a painting and a cash register. But I did get unlucky in the fact that I got a mineshaft interior. This interior is a little different than the normal factory one that I've been dealing with, because this has a factory outer and a mineshaft inner. The outer factory has a bunch of dead ends, and the mineshaft interior has a higher chance of spawning loot, so I need to get there. The only problem is that this interior has a way higher chance of spawning locked doors. This means not only do I have to get lucky and not go down too many dead ends and actually find the mineshaft, I then have to get lucky a second time and the door either be missing, unlocked, or I have a key to unlock it. After all of that, I do finally get outside with the loot that I've collected, and it's 4 p.m. This is an issue because unlike with other maps, at around 9 p.m, Rend becomes almost pitch black. With how dark it gets and Rend having a way higher chance of giants, this becomes a big issue. I was only able to make it back with one inventory when a giant followed me back to the ship. These giants suck, because once they spot you, they move towards you faster than you can walk, but slower than you can run. So while you can run away from them, if you stay within their sights, they're going to continue chasing you until you run out of stamina. At that point, they'll grab you and essentially one-shot you by just eating you. As I'm on quota 4 out of 5, this isn't really something I want to deal with. This becomes an even bigger issue whenever you realize that giants actually have an anti-ship camping mechanic. You see, if a giant chases you until you get on the ship and then loses you, it'll automatically walk back to the main entrance. This is so that it doesn't camp your ship and completely cut you off from going back in. I didn't know this at the time, and when it followed me to the ship, I thought I was stuck, when in reality, I had a second chance, and unknowingly, I didn't take it. This hit pretty hard because while I didn't make enough money, I was able to pull from my backstock in order to complete this quota. Why this is bad is because I know next quota is going to be over $700, and right now I only have $189 in backstock. Meaning I have to get the better part of $600 in order to make the final quota in a single day. At this point, my most profitable day during this run was just under $500. Quota 5 is going to be a doozy. Immediately, I did get pretty lucky with finding another cash register and a wedding ring soon after getting inside. I did kind of have to lock in to get as much scrap as I could as fast as I could to prevent myself from getting cornered by a monster, and in doing so, almost walked into a spawning bracken. If I had just been a little bit closer to the left, I would have instantly died. While trying to get my bearings from that, I was immediately jump scared by a coil head. In case you didn't know, a coil head works like a weeping angel, moving when not looked at. Meaning if I didn't look at him when I did, I would have perished. Thankfully, coil heads have a mechanic to where if they chase you for long enough, they kind of retract a bit and then go dormant for a little while. While being happy about that, I not only got haunted by the ghost girl, but looked at her. And for reference, she's a little girl who will haunt you. You can only look at her 2 times, because on the 3rd time you look at her, she will chase you down and kill you upon impact. Definitely another monster I need to stay away from. After making it back to the ship with my first round of loot, I found not only a dog, but also a giant. At this point, I knew I didn't have enough to make quota, so I had to take the risk and just run out trying to avoid the giant. Thankfully, I was able to make enough distance before the giant saw me. Also, on this day, unlike the last one, I have a stun grenade. So if I'm able to switch to it fast enough and make it go off, I can save myself from being eaten by the giant, if only for a bit. On my second route back, the giant did end up following me to the ship before losing me. It's at this point that it does what it actually needs to and went to the main entrance. Not knowing this was a thing, I just booked it, taking my chance. Now all I had to do was make it back with my last batch of loot, but it's 10 PM. I don't have a flashlight, I know there's a dog around, and I have a piece of scrap that is constantly ticking. I kid you not, in this moment I just held my breath and continued forward, hoping for the best. Really all I could do. After I took off, I didn't even want to look to see how much I made. I didn't want to know. I just wanted to get to company, put everything on the shelf, sell it all, and then look at the monitor to see if I made it or not. Every time there was a number that would pop up on screen, I would just look away because I was too scared to find out that I would fail this challenge this late into it. Mind you, at this point, this single run had already gone on for around an hour and 20 minutes. After selling everything and making sure the transactions went through, I very nervously looked at the monitor. Verdict is... yes! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! It's finally over. Side note, I wasn't crying, my hands were just on my face, and that's why I sound muffled. So, that's that. This challenge really took all I had and was rough from beginning to end. From the planning, to the execution, to the copious amounts of deaths. I kid you not when I say I was probably 10 to 15 attempts from just giving up. But I managed to push through and finish it off in the end. I did want to mention that this challenge was inspired by Chef Austin and his challenging ways of playing Lethal Company. It's thanks to his videos that I actually came up with this idea and stuck with it for as long as I did. I'll put a link to his channel down in the description, because if you liked this video, you'll like his content. And while you're down there, you might as well like and subscribe since it really helps out the channel. Have a good night.